In this video, we will compare and order rational and irrational numbers on a number line. I will give you a set of numbers, rational and irrational numbers, and I want you to be able to order these on a number line, using a number line. But there are certain things we need to know. If you notice in this example, we have three irrational numbers. They are non-perfect squares. I need to be able to identify the two consecutive whole numbers in which the square roots lie, and that will help us to determine where on this number line we should place them. But in order to do that, you have to have some idea of square roots. Okay, so what I did for the sake of the video is I wrote down some of the common square roots that we may use to help us solve some of the problems that we're working with. So I'll have these right here. Feel free to write your own as needed for the examples. So looking at the first one, I have the square root of 39, the square root of 12, and the square root of 74. Where on this number line do these numbers lie? And that will help me to arrange them, okay? So let's start with the first one, the square root of 39. So looking at our perfect squares, the square root of 39 falls between the square root of 36 and the square root of 49. So I know it must be between 6 and 7. So I'm going to move this one between 6 and 7 for now. Okay. Looking at the square root of 12. The square root of 12 falls between which two whole numbers? Which two consecutive whole numbers? The square root of 12, since it's between the square root of 9 and the square root of 16, I will actually place the square root of 12 between the whole numbers of 3 and 4. And the last one is the square root of 74. Where between which two whole numbers will I put the square root of 74? Well, I know that it's more than 8, so looking at some of the other examples, the square roots that you should have memorized, it must be between the square root of 64 and the square root of 81, which means it falls between the whole numbers of 8 and 9. So if I needed to arrange these irrational numbers from least to greatest, it'll be the square root of 12, it's the smallest, the square root of 39, and the square root of 74. What if I had these? Okay, what if I had these? The square root of 9, the square root of 31, and 4 2/3 as a fraction. The square root of 9 is a perfect square, and that is 3. 4 2/3, I know is more than 4, but it's less than 5. It's 1/3 away from 5, so I'm going to move it close to the 5. The only thing I need to do is figure out where between which two whole numbers will I find the square root of 31. You got to think about the perfect squares. You have to have those memorized. So the square root of 31, okay, the square root of 31 falls between the square root of 25 and the square root of 36. That's where the square root of 31 is. So it must be between the whole numbers of 5 and 6. So I'm going to take this and I'm actually going to put this one between the whole numbers of 5 and 6. So if I needed to arrange them from greatest to least, it would be the square root of 31 is the largest, then 4 2/3, and the smallest or the least will be the square root of 9.